What it do, flight crew? FTC. Flight team stand up! It's July. What a time to be alive. We got from a new channel we never reacted to before called The Parallel Pipes. I had a lot of you request this to me, man. Interesting looking educationalist type, maybe appearing video. The Google Maps Anomaly Iceberg Explained. Now this is a 30-minute video. You know what I'm saying? It seems interesting. It's apparently just some type of iceberg or something at Google Maps or something about Google Maps about glitching or something. I don't know. We're going to find out what they are talking about. We got us so fresh and clean Wingstop. You know what I'm saying? 10-piece lemon pepper fries instead of the Cajun seasoning fries this time. Hawaiian bone in. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to mix the Hawaiian with the lemon pepper. That's a new flavor. I'll put you guys on. You know what I'm saying? That's a good mix. Got the celery sticks to be happy in the bag. And then the fresh 47-ounce lemonade. You know what I'm saying? As usual, I pray before I eat. You know what I'm saying? You can skip it if you don't want to. You don't have to, but I pray. That's what I do. Come on, Jesus, be my God. Let this food bless me. Amen. Let's check it out.
This was first launched in 2005, and since then it's proven itself to be a very useful tool as it's found its way into many people's lives. It's changed the way we approach and look at geography and navigation. This is the Google Maps Iceberg. It outlines the many different weird anomalies that can be found on Google Maps. You already know how these iceberg charts work. Let's get into it. Black spots. So it is not uncommon for Google to just black out or blur out things on Google Maps that they don't want you to see. A lot of the time, of course, this is just done for privacy reasons. And so, for example, do you recognize this house? No, seriously, does this house feel familiar to you? Because if it does, there's a good reason why. This is Gumball Waterson's house from The Amazing World of Gumball. You can literally just find the house that they use for the show on Google Maps. This house used to not be blurred out, but it's blurred out now, probably to protect the privacy of the current homeowners. And so, overall, that makes sense. On the other hand, here's an island north of the South China Sea that just has both sides of it blacked out. Not really sure what's going on here. I believe this island is known as Monbu Onsha. According to this article from 2013 I found on the Wayback Machine, China put a scientific research base on this island to do aquaculture research. So there is some sort of Chinese settlement on this island. Whether or not you really believe China set up this base to do aquaculture research is up to you. This is the Chinese government. They're not usually the most truthful about what they do. This island is in an area of the South China Sea known as the Macclesfield Bank, and there's always been a dispute over whether China or Taiwan controls this area. So it kind of seems like China probably put up this research base more as a way to just get a foothold in this area. And so it all gets us to this point where there are a number of different reasons this island could have blacked out spots on it. Maybe there's some sort of Chinese base on this island that Google wants to black out for some reason. Maybe Google is unsure as to whether this island belongs to China or Taiwan, so they just black it out to avoid a conflict or something.
So they can't show all of
some sort of mapping glitch. I kind of doubt it because these black spots have been on this island for quite a while now, and if it really was a glitch, Google probably would have fixed it at this point. Another example of something being mysteriously censored out on Google Maps can be seen in this Russian town called Button. For a while, some of the houses in this town were scribbled out with some sort of white marking. This white scribbling is gone now, but that's weird. Those scribbles were definitely put there on purpose, so make of that what you will. And of course, it's not uncommon for military bases or government buildings to be blurred out for national security reasons or something along those lines. In fact, while we're talking about this entry on the iceberg, military bases, is probably just referring to how they're blurred out a lot of the time on Google Maps. So, for example, this airbase in Spain has its runways blurred out, and this airbase in France is just so low resolution you can't even really tell what's going on with it. Face in the clay. This entry on the iceberg is probably just referring to this thing in Alberta, Canada, known as the Badlands Guardian. It's this natural formation in the rock and clay there that from up above it looks like a face. North Korea. This entry, of course, is probably referring to just how North Korea has very limited Google Maps data. There is little to no information on the businesses in North Korea.
Really?
There is little to no street view data. And the few photospheres that you can access within North Korea that I'd imagine were put there by tourists give off such an eerie and isolated vibe.
What the heck?
So there's this place in Rome, Italy called Largo di Torre, Argentina. And at this point, it's basically this cat sanctuary type thing. Initially, this spot was built as more of like a historical Roman monument, but then a bunch of cats started moving in, and now it's kind of just this cat sanctuary. For a while, on Google Maps, there was a photosphere there that when you viewed it, you could just see this cat. Buffaloes. I'd imagine this is just referring to like buffaloes you can see on Google Maps. Two-legged cat. This entry is referring to this picture of a two-legged cat. This picture's been around for a while while now, and it's kind of a meme, I guess. I guess a lot of people were under the impression that this picture is from Google Maps. Like it was a picture of a cat ripped off of Google Street View, and it looks like that because of like some glitch or something. But it's actually just not. It's actually just a photoshopped picture of a cat. Fuck you, roof. So there's this house in Mississippi that just says fuck you on the roof. There's not really a whole lot going on here. Pigeon people. So this is referring to this walking path in the Tokyo, Japan area, where after you follow this walking path for a while, you'll just stumble across a bunch of pigeon people. If I had to make a guess as to what's going on here, there's this Musashino Art University pretty close by, so maybe some art students were just out doing some art stuff. Man falling downstairs. This next entry takes us to Hoboken, New Jersey, where if you look to your left, oh yeah, they blurred it out, but back before they blurred it out, you used to be able to catch this guy just absolutely shit.
What the heck? Bro, I'll be wanting to fight somebody who did that to me, man.
Where you'll come up to this rabbit, and it kind of just looks like it gets up and flies away. It's pretty cool. It's pretty funny. What's probably going on here is this rabbit is getting hit by the Google car. It's kind of crazy, too, because he gets air. Big rabbit. So in northern Italy, there's this mountain called the Fleto Fava Mountain, and this art group by the name of Skeleton decided just to put a giant stuffed pink rabbit on top of it. People could drive to it and climb around on it and stuff. From Google Maps, it looks pretty menacing. It was put there in 2005, and it was supposed to last quite a while, but it started rotting and decomposing really fast, and by 2016, it was pretty much just gone. Nowadays, if you try and visit this rabbit, you won't find it, but you will still find the outline that it left behind. Mars and Moon. Very similarly to Google Earth, Google also has Google Mars and Google Moon whales. I'd imagine this is just referring to sometimes how you can spot whales on Google Maps. Here's a couple you can see off the coast of Hawaii. Dick Church. In the great state of Illinois, in the city of Dixon, lies the Christian Science Society of Dixon. It doesn't look like a penis. Rainbow plane. Sometimes when low-flying planes are caught on Google Maps, they have this kind of rainbow effect to them. It seems like the reason this happens is because the satellite cameras are capturing red, blue, and green at slightly different times. And so since the plane is moving super fast, it's giving the colors kind of like a warped effect. Google's car pulled over. So what this is probably referring to is if you go to Street View and come into this town called Golly in West Virginia, as you're coming through this town, you can see this police car pop out. He follows you for a while. You can see him turn on his lights and then just pull you over. It's hard to tell why this happened. If Google's car was speeding, or maybe the police officer, he thought maybe the camera on top of the Google car was like a hazard or something. The murder dock. So in Amsterdam, there's this park called Beatrix Park, and at this park, there's a dock. And for a while on Google Maps, if you were to check out this dock, this is what you would see.
What the heck?
Someone was murdered, left bleeding, and then drug out onto the dock. That's not what most people think is going on here, though. Most likely what happened here is some guy had a wet dog, and the wet dog went out onto the dock and dripped all over it, and just the poor satellite quality made this water on the dock look like blood. Masquerade people. I think this entry is just supposed to say masked people, and this is some sort of typo. It's probably referring to these masked guys you can find just standing around on this road while you're going through Mexico. There's no information.
Whoa, woof!
Weird masked people standing out in the middle of Mexico. Kidnapper house. The Ariel Castro kidnappings were a series of kidnappings that took place between 2002 and 2004, where a man by the name of Ariel Castro abducted 3 girls and held them captive in his house. These girls were constantly abused and tortured, and Michelle Knight, who was abducted in 2002, didn't escape until 2013. So that's like over 10 years.
What the fuck?
Messed up story, and this entry on the Iceberg Kidnapper house is referring to how the house that this all took place in.
That nigga need to go to hell, bro.
On Google Maps. Creature on the balcony. Located in France, there's a city called Nancy, and there's this neighborhood that just has an inexplicably blurred out house on Street View. It doesn't really make any sense until you go back in time and see what used to be here. Before Google blurred all of this out, you used to be able to see this balcony with this kind of strange alien.
What the shit, bro? What the fuck is that?
It doesn't even look that weird. It totally.
That shit has dreads.
Or some sort of Halloween decoration. In fact, some people on Reddit were looking into this, and people were able to find statues that are very similar to this one. What is
That's not similar to that, bro. That's a real alien, bro.
Because for a long time, you could just come to this spot on Street View and just see it in its entirety, and then that's it. But then a while back, Google decided to just blur out the weird creature on the balcony. Not everything, not the entire balcony, but just the creature on the balcony.
I think I met that alien, too.
And then a little bit after that, they did go ahead and then blur out more of the balcony, and now just the the entire house is blurred out. It wasn't weird until Google started making it weird, you know? Lady of the North. This entry is just referring to this giant land sculpture in the UK that's often referred to as the Lady of the North. Giant crab. So this entry in the Iceberg is referring to this image that's been floating around the internet for a while. It shows what looks to be a giant crab off of this harbor.
Damn, that's a good looking crab right there.
Actually taken from Bing Maps, not Google Maps. You can tell this is exactly where they got it from because all the patterns in the sand are exactly
it's
the same,
fake?
and all the boats on the dock are at the exact same place. It's a nice picture. Swastika building. So in San Diego, California, there's a naval base, and from up above, one of the buildings on this naval base looks like this. How this building managed to happen is pretty odd, especially considering it was built in the 1960s. I'm not really sure how the architect could have missed out on this. I've seen people say that this building was built this way for lighting or air conditioning reasons, but the 1960s had fairly good lighting and air conditioning solutions. At the time, there must have just been the assumption that no one was ever going to get an aerial view of the building. For a while, people were getting kind of mad at the Navy for having this building, and according to a Time magazine article from 2007, the Navy said that they were going to invest money into this building to make it not look like a swastika anymore, but that was 15 years ago, and the building still definitely looks like a swastika. Angel. In Switzerland for a while, there's this road near St. Gallen where you can see what kind of looked like an angel in the sky. Some people also think it looks like a devil and an angel standing next to each other. If you try and visit this spot on Google Maps now, though, it's gone. Google must have removed and replaced this Street View data. Red Sea. So at first I thought this entry was just referring to the Red Sea, but as far as I can tell, nothing Red Sea related is particularly notable on Google Maps. What it could be referring to is this red lake you can find in Baghdad, Iraq. No one on the internet seems to be 100% certain why this lake is red, but I've seen people speculate that it could be some sort of algae in the water or it's from sewage. Another idea, though, is this Times Magazine article says one tipster told the tech blog Boing Boing that he was told by a friend that slaughterhouses in Iraq sometimes dump blood into canals. So that's something to think about.
What? And it's right by a shopping mall? Oh.
Most likely what's going on here is some sort of algae is making the water red. An algae known as Venalaila salina has the ability to turn water a reddish, pinkish color. So there's a pretty good chance that's what's going on here. Ghost Girl. But before we get into that, I'm happy to announce that today's video is sponsored by Honeygain. Have you ever wanted to make a little extra money? You know, have a side hustle? Well then Honeygain is the app for you. You're not going to be making money hand over fist with there. So you're probably wondering, how do I use Honey? Spotify subscription every month or a coffee here and there. So you're probably wondering, how do I use Honeygain? And how does Honeygain
Trying to skip past it, y'all.
Honeygain will use your internet connection to gather information packages from the web. And these information packages are used by researchers in the e-commerce and advertising fields. And you sign up and you can start passively making money by running the app in the background and sharing your internet connection. And an important part of this is Honeygain doesn't actually collect any personal data. Honeygain doesn't ask for any storage permissions or any other send parallel bytes. Get $5 added to your account or click the link in the description.
Welcome for skipping over it.
This entry is referring to how at a cemetery in Texas, there used to be a photosphere, and if you were to look to your right at one of the trees, you could spot a girl peeking out.
Whoa!
You see this floaty thing in the background?
Holy shit, don't go over there.
A couple people have claimed to have made this photosphere, and have just said that it was their daughter who was hiding behind a tree. It's a little bit off-putting once you see it. This photosphere has since been removed from this cemetery, so that could be a little spooky. Man pointing gun to the camera. So this is probably referring to this thing in Detroit. There's this house in Detroit that's blurred out. Before it was blurred out, there's a bunch of people standing on the porch with one of the people pointing a gun at the camera. Dog chasing car.
Yeah.
So if you go to this island right here in Japan and go through this spot, this dog will start chasing you. Not really much to it, it's pretty cool. Kazakhstan pentagram. This next entry takes us to Kazakhstan, where there's a giant pentagram etched into the ground. Why there's a pentagram etched into this northern area of Kazakhstan is very weird. You know, there's many theories out there for what this is about. Of course, some people think this is the work of a satanic cult living out in Kazakhstan. I've even seen some people say that this is a defunct surface-to-air missile site, and it's shaped like a pentagram to help with some sort of radar tracking system. These are all very fun ideas. An NBC article from 2014 did an interview with a geologist who lives in this area, and apparently it's an outline of a park made in the form of a star. The article then goes on to say that the star was a popular symbol during the Soviet era. Kazakhstan was part of the former Soviet Union until its dissolution in 1991. So I guess it's a park that was made to look like a star, but since it looks like a star, it also simultaneously looks like a pentagram. Sounds like a good cover-up for a surface-to-air missile site. Sudan lips. This entry is just referring to this geological formation out in Sudan that kind of looks like some lips. Lost baby. So once again, there's this image that has kind of been around the internet for a while. There's this picture of this baby just alone by itself standing out in front of a Gucci store. And this picture presumably was taken on Google Maps. I've checked every Gucci store on the planet, I think, looking for this baby. Maybe Google's removed it. Maybe this image isn't even real. I could not actually find this on Google Maps, though. If you find this on Google Maps and it exists, put a link in the comments. I'll definitely.
Bad parents.
Donkey killed by Google's car. Donkey killed by Google's car.
From Shrek?
If you go to this road in Botswana, you can come up onto this donkey and it kind of looks like you hit it with your car. This has been here for a while and people were hitting a donkey with their Google Street car. So in 2013, Google actually ended up making an official statement where they showed extra pictures of this donkey event, and it turns out they didn't actually hit the donkey. Donkey kind of just happened to roll over at a very specific time. Ice ship. This entry is likely referring to what looks like a frozen ship on an island off of Antarctica. Google Maps will measure it to be over 400 feet long. The ship doesn't seem to match up with any known missing vessels, but maybe it's some person's private yacht that went undocumented, or maybe the government lost a ship and decided to keep it classified or something. Even the website Snopes, a website that is dedicated to debunking conspiracy theories and false information, doesn't really have a great explanation for this. An argument could be made that it's just some sort of ice formation, but also it's 400 feet long and looks like a ship. Blonde tourist legs. Once again, one of those pictures that have been around for a while. It's a picture of this blonde tourist walking in front of the Chichen Itza ruins. Somehow when this picture was being taken, something must have happened that make her knees look backwards. Since this screenshot was taken, Google must have
look backwards
data around these ruins because you can't see this girl anymore. Axe murder. So coming down one of these streets in Longton, England, there's a bunch of blurred out people on the side of this road. Luckily, people were able to get screenshots of this before it got blurred out. It looks like the scene of a murder. And
whoa!
Because they have axes. A couple different news outlets reported on this, and in case you were wondering, it's not real. These guys are just playing a bit. Ghost Man. So this entry is very open-ended. There are many different examples of people seeing things on Google Maps that they think look like ghosts. Some examples being this guy on this beach in Australia that's kind of just phasing out of reality. And in New York, there's a street with a bunch of ghost people and ghost cars on it. Oak Bay Snake. So there's this supposed screenshot of Oak Bay in New Zealand taken from Google Maps. In this picture, you can see what kind of looks to be a giant snake moving through the water. According to the Daily Mail, in 2014, an engineer
Loch Ness Monster
Watira took this screenshot of Google Maps after he noticed the strange wake in the water. It's kind of strange because typically boats won't leave behind this kind of wake. They tend to leave behind some white froth, and it's usually in an overall different shape. This has led some people to speculate that it was a giant sea snake or sea monster. I've even seen some people think that it could have been a giant oarfish. It's very interesting, although also it is very possible for a smaller, faster watercraft to leave behind a wave like this. Broken face. This entry is referring to a picture that was taken off of Google Maps of a broken face statue or something. You can find it in a Dutch city known as The Hague. It's part of an art museum out there. Escaped prisoner. So in South Africa, near the city of Johannesburg, you can find this guy in full orange just walking down an isolated street, and it kind of looks like this person could be an escaped prisoner. I really wish Google Maps captured a prisoner escaping, but the odds are it's not. There are really no prisons near this area, and if you go down the road, you can actually catch this guy again hanging out with some other people in front of their house.
That's just how he's dressed.
Clearly says CWF, and there's no prisons that match up with this acronym. The only place that seems to match up with CWF is this engineering place nearby. So maybe this guy just happened to be wearing his engineering work clothes one day and they kind of look like prisoner stuff. Van on fire. In Toronto, Canada, you can look at this flaming van parked out in front of someone's house. And you can also check out this burning van in Brazil. Plane in the forest. So there are a couple different examples of planes on Google Maps that are just in forest. They seem very out of place, but most of the time they're just decommissioned passenger planes that have been bought by private owners to be used as display pieces. There are more interesting specific cases of people finding planes on Google Maps, and we'll be talking about one later down on the iceberg. Gas mask guy. This one could be talking about one of two things. It could be referring to this picture of a guy in a gas mask crouched off to the side of the road. Once again, this picture was supposedly taken off of Google Maps. I couldn't find specifically where on Google Maps this is at, but I'd imagine it's real. Alternatively though, what this could be referring to is this photosphere you can access near the Chernobyl disaster site in Ukraine. where you can
Whoa.
view just a huge pile of gas masks surrounding this chair with a doll sitting on it with a gas mask
What
on.
the
Just
hell?
a little bit unsettling, you know. Zura Bibijan. So if you come to this neighborhood in Worcester, England, you can see this blurred out thing next to a car, and for some reason Google Street View won't let you get up next to it. Street View just is like pushing you past this blurred spot. Well, luckily people did get screenshots of what was going on here before Google decided to blur it out. There was what looked like a dead person on the side of the road. That's what a lot of people thought for a while, but of course it's this girl by the name of Zura Bibijan, and according to this Daily Mail article, they interviewed this girl and she was just playing dead for fun, and now it looks like she's dead on the side of the road. Body found 22 years later.
How do you seriously the perfect snapshot? Like, when are they actually doing these Google Map
photos? Was missing in 1997. He was out at a nightclub at night, and the last heard of him, he was calling his girlfriend from the nightclub to say that he was driving back to their home in Wellington, Florida. He never made it home that night. He just disappeared. There's an investigation into his disappearance, but no one could find him. No one was sure what happened to him. That was until 22 years later, when in 2019, a submerged car was spotted on Google Maps in a pond where William Moult used to live. Shortly after this car was spotted, they pulled this car out of this lake, and William Moult's skeleton was still inside. He crashed his car into the lake and then suffocated, and then he wasn't found until 22 years later.
What the
fuck? In 2009, a 14-year-old boy by the name of Jose Barrera was murdered in Richmond, California. There's this high-crime residential area in Richmond, California.
Richmond, yeah, it's bad.
The Iron Triangle, and this was where he was murdered at. The reason this is on this iceberg is because Google Maps satellites managed to capture Jose Barrera's body being left by some train tracks. Of course, if you try and check this spot on Google Maps now, it's been updated and you can't find his body there anymore. Google received complaints from Jose Barrera's family. They wanted it to get removed.
They have? Yeah. Why was he even there in the first place?
Because you could see Jose Barrera laying there. And the picture captures the very moment that police officers pull up to the scene. Children with guns. There are a couple different examples of children on Google Maps holding guns. An example being, at this neighborhood in Chicago, you can see this. Based on the way people around him are reacting, it doesn't look like it's a real gun, but who knows. Another example you can find is a suburban area in South Africa where you can come up to these kids walking and one of them looks to be holding a gun. Is it a real gun? Probably not, but it's hard to say for sure. Injury cow. So there's this picture of a cow moving across the highway with an injury. As far as I can tell, there is no information on the internet where this actually took place at on Google Maps. 41 Marmol. Kind of just outside of Mexico City, there's a street called 41 Marmol, and if you look up at one of the houses, it looks like there's a guy hanging from the roof. When this was first discovered, a lot of people actually reported it to law enforcement, but it's actually just a puppet. The people living at this house have gone on record saying that it's a prank. In Baltimore ghost town. There's a town in the state of New York called New Baltimore, and prior to Google updating the data in 2016, the street view just had this weird ghostly effect to it. Everything was warped.
Trippy.
And there was a grainy effect on pretty much everything. New Baltimore is a small town in the state of New York with a population not much more than 3,000. As I've stated earlier, this phenomenon has been patched out of Google Maps, but there never really was much of an explanation for it. Malaysian plane. So earlier we talked about people finding planes on Google Maps, but this is one of the more interesting cases. So if you didn't already know, in March of 2014, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 went missing on a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. There were 227 passengers on board and 12 crew members, and till this day, no one really knows for sure what happened to this airplane. They're not sure if it was hijacked or if it was some sort of mechanical malfunction. They just lost communication with the flight, and it disappeared along with everyone on board. They never found the black box. Well, in 2018, an unidentified plane was found in this Cambodian jungle on Google Maps, and a number of people theorized that this could be Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 was a Boeing 777, and this plane that's in this jungle seems to be a very similar length to that of a Boeing 777. Additionally, reports by the Malaysian Transport Ministry show that prior to losing contact with the plane, it was recorded to be in Cambodian airspace. The most common belief is that Malaysian Flight 370 on its way to Beijing somehow turned around and ended up crashing in the Indian Ocean, but the exact location of its crash site is still not confirmed at all. So some people think that this might be Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. Probably the biggest problem with this theory is that debris from the plane has reportedly been found in Tanzania and other places in Africa, which kind of puts a damper on this theory because if the plane landed in this forest in Cambodia, there's really no way debris would have gone into the water and then washed across the Indian Ocean and then onto the coast of Africa. But I guess some people have a conspiracy against the Malaysian government and they think that they planted debris in Tanzania to kind of close the case. The Malaysian government didn't want to admit that they couldn't find the plane, so they ended up planting debris in Tanzania. Even if this plane isn't Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, it's still a really weird thing. There's not really any reason that this should be out in the middle of this jungle. Not any reasons that I could really find, at least. The guy who originally found this on Google Maps is a man by the name of Ian Wilson. Apparently, he's actually tried to go on a trek out into the Cambodian jungle to get to this airplane and try and do an analysis on it and see where it's from and why it's there. But I guess on this trek he went on, it got so dangerous that he had to turn back. He says he's trying to go on another expedition.
Well, bro, it sounds dangerous.
So until anyone
there's tigers in that forest, I bet.
What's going on with this plane? End of the world.
Bro, that can be like a dragon. What it does? A Komodo dragon?
This highway just comes to an end in the middle of nowhere.
Bro, those are them real animals, bro. Them things would kill you, bro.
It's pretty odd. And
they eat anything that's like meat, bro.
Even more odd.
Pause.
Google has removed the Street View data for when it looked like this, so you can't see this anymore. Now it just looks like this. Dogman. I'd say this is probably referring to one of two things. This could be referring to this Daily Star article from 2019 where they report on a Reddit post that was made. I think this Reddit post has since been deleted because I cannot find it. On this Reddit post that was apparently posted on r/cryptids, a guy by the name of The Lone Hunter attached a video of him on Google Street View and he seemingly spots a dogman in the woods. This right here is what he thinks is the dogman, I think. There might be something there, but it kind of also just looks like a bunch of shadows. It looks pretty normal. On Google Maps, I was able to find the street that this picture was taken from, but I can't find the exact angle or spot where you can see the dogman thing. There's also the possibility that this entry is just not referring to this at all, too. This entry might not be actually referring to a dog man, but instead it's referring to one of the many different funny dog and man related things on Google Maps. A lake in an island in a lake in an island. There's a couple
a lake in an island? Bro, I just lost brain cells.
One is in the Philippines. You can find this island in a lake on an island in a lake on an island. Man jumps in Google's car. This entry kind of left me with the impression that there was going to be some story out there of someone breaking into a Google Street View car, although it doesn't really seem like anything like this has happened or at least been documented. This could be referring to this thing in Poland where you can see a guy on the Google Street View car. I know jumping on a car and in a car are different, but this is the closest thing to this entry that I think I can find. R. Oscar Cunha. Basically, in the Brazilian state of Florianopolis, there's a section of streets that had some really weird properties for a while. For a while, if you were to move in certain ways and do specific things in this area, you would be able to go into this black, dark void thing, and you can move around in it a little bit, and you can look at these weird shapes and figures in the darkness. It's interesting because there's almost like an out-of-bounds glitch on Google Maps. It doesn't seem like you can perform this glitch anymore, and it seems like this area of Florianopolis has mostly been fixed. I've tried following all the steps in the videos that show how to do this, and it doesn't seem to work anymore. I'd imagine as Google Street View has been updated and more street data has been compiled, glitch just doesn't work anymore because there's a bigger pool of street data to pull from. It's also completely possible that Google just went in and fixed this glitch thing. This area in Florianopolis, though, still isn't perfect. There are these weird glitchy kind of effects that will come over Street View if you stand in certain spots. And the more you look at that weird demonic shaped thing in the void, the more unsettling it gets.
Oh, his voice disappeared.
So yeah, that was the Google Maps Iceberg. It was pretty alright, I guess. You know, if you like what you saw, you can subscribe.
Hey, man.
Love you forever.
This is your man. Coming up on the Jurassic Next minute. For me,